Welcome to Podcast 83, a regular look at the news, stories, and trends related to Michigan's 83 counties from the Michigan Association of Counties.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Podcast 83, the podcast put on by the Michigan Association of Counties. We're joined by our normal crew today, Deena Bosworth, Samantha, Gibson, Madeline, Fata. Thanks for joining us. I want to talk a little bit about, we had a little bit of session last week. We've got obviously a lame duck session coming up. We've got bills we're paying attention to, a letter we want to bring to your attention, a whole bunch of stuff going on. But first off, let's talk a little bit about last week. We had a back to legislative session last week, post-election, we had the election of leadership. That's now done. Back to some normal business. Sam, why don't you tell us a little bit about a minimum staffing bill that came up last week and what happened?
Yeah, so last week, minimum staffing legislation, as a reminder for everyone, that's to mandate that minimum staffing be a subject of bargaining for Public Act 312 employees. That was initially posted on the House floor agenda for a vote on Wednesday. We were able to successfully get that taken off the agenda, so it was not voted on Wednesday, and then we succeeded again with that on Thursday. So we were able to avoid a House vote on that. Hopefully we can continue that into December, but that's a difficult issue. It's one that has bipartisan support. At face value, it makes sense, but when you consider the nuance, the liabilities, the mandatory overtime that it presents, it's not a way to solve staffing shortages.
Right. Yeah, especially with staffing shortages where they're at right now. Now we're requiring a certain amount of people to be at certain things at certain times. It seems like that would make things worse to me, but what do I know? But good work on that, Sam. And obviously, as we move through the end of this legislative session, we'll keep our eyes on that. Madeline, so we have a reintroduction of some bills that have been introduced already with different bill sponsors. Why don't you tell us a little bit about these new bills that are old bills with new people, I think?
Yes. So on Thursday, the aggregate legislation was reintroduced with new sponsors. Just to remind you all, it essentially preempts all local control, all zoning for sand and gravel mines, and it would put the permitting authority into the hands of Eagle, the State Department. Yes, they were reintroduced, nearly identical bills, different sponsors, bipartisan sponsors. It's a 4-bill package, and there are 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans on the package. It's been referred to the Committee on Regulatory Reform. And previously, when the original bills were brought up for a hearing in that same committee, it did not go so well. There was a lot of public pushback, a lot of local government pushback, even environmental pushback on it. So we were kind of hopeful that the issue was dead, but it's rearing its ugly head again.
Yeah, and it's essentially the same bills that have been introduced previously, right?
Yes.
So nothing new bill numbers.
Yep.
I don't know if you have those handy or not. We can tell those to us.
It's 6108, 09, 10, and 11.
Okay. And again, they'll probably follow the same process, House committee hearing, if they get out of committee, House, Senate, obviously in their condensed time frame. Interesting being reintroduced this late in the session. That oftentimes makes us concerned, right?
Yep, and I'm under the impression that the committee chair is ready to run them. So yeah, we'll have to see.
But nothing's been posted yet in the House?
Not yet.
All right, and then Deena, we're back to Revenue Sharing Trust Fund, of course. We're at the end of this session, lame duck. Been talking about it a lot. How about a quick update on where that's at and what our kind of upcoming plan is here for the end of the year?
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, so revenue sharing trust fund bills, just for a reminder for our members, those are House Bills 4274 and 4275. They passed out of the House last year by an overwhelming majority, 106-4. And they've been sitting in the Senate Finance Committee ever since. We have been trying to get these bills some movement. We know that we have the votes in the Senate to support this and put it on the governor's desk. The holdup is actually getting them up for a vote. Now, it could be discharged from Senator Kavanaugh's Finance Committee and brought to the Senate floor for a vote. They could have a hearing in Senate Finance where we know we have the votes and then bring it to the Senate floor for a vote. But what we can't get is a commitment to get them up on the board. And the stumbling block that we're hearing is that we need the governor to actually ask the legislature to do this, to make it an item that she would like to see done in the lame duck session. So our strategy at this point is we're going to put together a letter, and we are going to ask all of our county commissioners, our affiliates, everyone to sign on to this letter and send it back to us. It will be a letter to the governor, asking the governor to make this a priority and to ask the legislature to move these bills forward. So we'll be sending out an email. It'll be an action alert. It will be something that will have, a letter attached, and we are going to implore every single county commissioner we can to sign their name to the letter and send it to us so that we can show the support across the state from counties and elected officials.
Yeah, so we're still working on the logistics of how this is going to work, but I would expect to see something from your county administrator or whoever's you're acting if you don't have a county administrator. But the emphasis being on getting individual commissioners not only to sign on, but I think the county board to sign on to the letter, and then we'll give the email address to send that letter back to make it very easy for everyone. Probably something where you just fill in your name, title, and organization if you have it. If you can do it individually, we're hoping you'll do it individually and as a commission. But like we said, we're still working on the logistics of it. You should see something coming out this week on that, so stay tuned on that. And then finally,
I just wanted to add, Steve, that we are doing this in conjunction with MML and MTA because revenue sharing trust fund affects all levels of local government. And so we're going to try and get every single one of our members collectively to engage in this and show the statewide support. So hopefully that can put enough pressure on the governor and the legislature to move these bills forward.
Right. And then finally, opening it up to all three of you, what does the schedule look like for the rest of this session? Obviously we're in hunting break right now. Thanksgiving's next week. What are we anticipating for the rest of the year?
Well, we're looking at, 3 weeks worth of work, but really only 7 session days, we think.
So 9 session days just went down to 7 real quick, didn't it? Yeah.
There are attendance issues. There are other conferences that are clearly more important than coming to Lansing and voting. So we're looking at probably December 3rd and 4th, the 10th, 11th, and 12th, and then the 18th and 19th. Again, 7 voting days, and we have a lot of things that we want to get done and a lot of things that we want to make sure doesn't get done. Now, how productive those days will be will depend on the attendance in the House, frankly. And do they have enough Dem members in attendance to actually pass legislation?
Well, and as we typically see in lame duck too, as you get further into lame duck, session days seem to get longer and more work seems to be held till last minute. Some might call that procrastination. I don't know. When I was in college, I was always told to get your work done early and then, then you're better prepared. But hey, what do I know?
Yeah, no, they will procrastinate and put a lot of things up on the board. We do know the governor's still pushing for her economic development package, and that's going to take a lot of negotiation. So there are going to be hours and hours and hours of negotiation happening while the members are stuck on the House floor at their desk. You'll see they'll bring blankets, they'll bring pillows, they'll bring slippers. They could be there all night, multiple nights in December.
Very dramatic. And I think a lot of those discussions are occurring now, right? Within Senate and House leadership, even on what they want to get done with the governor's office.
Yes. And now how productive those conversations are going, we're not quite sure. We know that individually the chambers are meeting, their leadership teams are meeting to determine what they're going to do and, the bills that they want to take up and what's the priority. The governor's office again has said, I want economic development and then we'll talk.
So important to note, as those discussions are occurring, it's just as important for you if you're seeing your locally elected senators, representatives in district as they're home hunting, home for the holidays. It's still a great time to get in their ear about many of the issues that we've talked about. They're issued briefs on our website. If you go to our website, you can get talking points on all those issues. Revenue sharing trust fund is on there, statewide septic codes on there. There's another 3 or 4 on there. Just a good opportunity for you to kind of get some face-to-face time with those folks and emphasize some of the work that we're doing and helping us out a little bit. And then finally, of course, we've got our new county commissioner schools coming up in December. So that'll be the 2nd and 3rd and 9th and 10th. The 2nd, we're in Frankenmuth. The 3rd, we're in Shelbyville. The 9th, we are in Gaylor or Grayling. And the 10th, we're up in Escanaba. So registration for that is still open, I believe. You can still register for that and still participate in those meetings. We've really good attendance so far, but still encourage those newly elected officials in your counties to attend. It's a great opportunity to get exposure to some topics that they'll have to anticipate very early in their terms, and also their first exposure to MAC and the work that we do as well. So with that, anything else for the greater good, anyone? All right. Well, with that, we'll sign off, and we will be talking to everyone over the next few weeks. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Podcast 83.